I would like to tell you why you would be interested in my style of human design, why I call it Zen human design, and why its approach is maybe immediately more applicable and meaningful for you. When you understand what human design shows, what the human design chart shows, it's very important to take that information in according to your own set of virtues, moralities, orientations, because each person can use human design according to his or her own nature. So when you look at somebody who is using human design to make as much money as possible, to charge very high fees, to say, hey, I am the only one, and you have to pay me for what I did, and you have to pay me forever, because that's what it is that is about bringing human design to the world. Actually, for having had the experience of learning human design in that format, I came to a very, very big wall. I couldn't go any further. There were certain ways that all I could do was just repeat phrases and try to make sense of arcane and esoteric names for things that sounded really cosmic. And I spent a lot of time at that process. And when I completely started going in the direction of the reading of Hua Qing Mi's I Ching, it was very evident what is being suggested in the path of virtue. And going even further into understanding the Kabbalah and what that system is actually teaching us about sort of divine appreciation for the body and for the experience of coming into body, and what that relationship is to the divine and to the mother. This is what the Kabbalah is bringing. It is a feminine Jewish women's mystical tradition. And so as you start entering into a deeper understanding of what it is when these centers get defined in a person's chart, that's when you can go directly into it yourself. There are only 9 centers. And when I keep telling people, buy this chart, buy this $9 little package, we're trying to really make it easy to get started. And even if you think you've already got started and you've got all these charts, you already have the software that you got for free or you downloaded or whatever, and you think you have, it's perfectly adequate. There is some reason why I am really suggesting that you look at the Zen human design chart. It has a completely different starting point and approach. And what happens when you get that $9 beginner pack too is that you end up with an audio file that allows you to use the reference cards or the reference sheets that are included so that you can go directly in. And at that point, you aren't having to learn any names or having to learn anybody's advice for what you're doing. The only thing you need to do is really take this as a contemplation exercise, as a way of self-examining how you experience yourself. Because each of us experiences this story uniquely, and that is the point. And we all, I think, everybody, I don't know, maybe it's not completely true, but I think for the vast majority of us, we also learn really bad habits during the course of growing up, from being an infant to being in our middle 20s. And during that time, we have been taught how to experience ourselves. I have found over my adulthood that the conditioning, especially since I have met human design, the main lesson that I had is, what is the conditioning of my undefined heart center to 2 people with defined heart centers, or more people with defined heart centers, and what is the story that I've had because of the undefined sacral center. Now, these are real. the way that I have interacted with people and the way I have experienced myself, the way I have felt in my body. This is all completely important information. And taking on somebody else's idea of how I ought to look at emotions, are you kidding? Don't you have your own way of how you see the emotions? And what you want to do is put together the map with your experience. This is the main point, because it's the way you are. It's the way you handle emotions, the way you handle sacral energy or any given center. And so when I keep insisting that a person starts over again, you have already maybe started in the middle, and you know you're a generator, and you know you got to wait to respond, and you've got all this stuff you can tell anybody according to their type, and then you can get into profile even. But what you're doing is starting in the middle, and you don't understand why you are telling a person about their power, because you don't know what it is yourself. And until you identify fully what the sacral energy is, hey, it took me 16 years. And when I finally penetrated, oh yeah, that's the sacral center indeed, that's been the story of my life, oh my God, that is when I could finally really make use of this information. So what I'm suggesting to you is take a shortcut. It was a really, really long way around to go into somebody else's whole series of names and interpretations, layers after layers after layers of those things, and lots of tricky things. And oh man, you just have to have this, because then it's completely simple. And you realize that as soon as you try to repeat it out of your mouth, you don't know what you're talking about really. And that is the reason why I didn't feel good for having studied that style, and I don't recommend it. I listen to people talking to me and I think, what do you know yourself? And human design is absolutely available to us all. That is the main thing. All of us can get it. And the main two things, if you want to really be a student of human design, you really don't need very much. Starting with this $9 beginner pack too, I think you already have a very good start to understanding and identifying how you've been living this life, how you've been being conditioned especially. That's the biggie. That's the lesson here.